Maseches Bava, Metzia, Daf, Ches, Amud Beis, in the very, very bottom of the page. We do have to do a little bit of a recap on yesterday. We are now learning how to ride the horse, halachically. Not exactly how to ride a horse. We're learning about how to be koine an animal, how one can acquire an animal halachically. And there was a big debate if a person sitting passively on the animal, is that called kinyan or not? Now, I did mention yesterday, and I'll say today even more emphatically, that, oh, I'm sorry, that I'll say even stronger, but the Rishonim say, why would one think that if one sits on a donkey, that is a kinyan? Why should that be considered to be a kinyan? It's not Meshicha, not a Gbo, not a Shtar. What is it? Yeah? Not Agav. So it sounds like, as Tosfos was hinting to, and other Shonim say even more, the Havamina was that because the animal does move a little bit, because it feels the weight of the person on it, so maybe that movement is called an hogo. And an hogo is a byproduct of Meshicha, right? The answer is, according to others, maybe, although we don't have a clear opinion like that. According to Shmuel, no. According to Shmuel, the way Rav Yudah understood Shmuel, what did we say at the end of the day? No. The only time Rechiva, riding, would be a kinyan is if the person really goads the animal beraglov. Yeah, he actually kicks it in the back of the stomach over there, like the 2 feet, like this you have to do. And when he really moves it and the animal actually moves significantly because of the person, that is an hogo. What's an hogo? An hogo is like a tolda of Meshicha. Yeah, in other words, Meshicha means that the animal moves because of the person. Now, Meshicha, and this is now introducing the next part of the sugya, Meshicha has, I would say, two forms to it. One is called Meshicha, Meshicha, like New York, New York. And the other one is called Anhoga, which is also because of Meshicha. What's the difference? Meshicha means to pull, to pull. You take the animal, whether the animal likes it or not, you pull the animal. Just tug it along, pull it along. That's Meshicha. Anhoga is also a form of Meshicha. Anhoga means, what does Lahanhig mean in Hebrew? To lead. To lead. A manig is a leader, right? Manig adol, to lead. So when you lead the animal, by what? By speaking to it. You tell the animal, come on, come on, come on. The animal is trained enough to come. That's called an hoga, which is a form of Meshicha. Yeah, I saw that in the Rishonim too. Or hanoga could be to cause it to move in all kinds of other ways. That's called an hoga. Yeah, you walk with the animal, and as you walk, the animal walks behind you, after you, follows you. That's called an hoga. But Lamaisa, the both are similar, although not the same. Now we're going to see if there are significant differences. But as of now, they all belong to the same mishpacha of Meshicha. And when the person sits on the donkey, according to Rav Yudah, according to Shmuel, if it sits on an animal and is not passive, and the animal happens to move around, if his mamish gives it a kick, boom, in the back, and the animal don't do it too strongly because it's not running, yeah, he kicks it a little bit so it starts walking, and that's called also a form of anhoga, which is coming from Meshicha. All very nice. Yeah. What? According to Rav Yudah, that's what Shmuel says. Again, let's summarize more yesterday. I can see from your question we need some summary, which is good. Shmuel never said that mefurish. Shmuel is the one who said that if the person, Shmuel explained the Mishnah in Kilayim, that a person who sits in a karon, a person who sits in a carriage or sits on some kind of box on the animal without holding it, without leading it, is not considered to be a rider halachically. It would not be a kinyan. Says Rav Yudah, the same would apply to a person who's riding statically, even though he holds onto the reins, holding onto the reins doesn't make a difference. That's what Rav Yudah said. So Rav Yudah, according to Shmuel, says that sitting passively or semi-passively is not good enough. That's Rav Yudah explains Shmuel. Comes the Gemara Toshma, the second to last line in Daf Ches Amud Beis in Bava Metzia is where we start today. Baruch Hashem. Toshma, come in here a braise, yeah, which is really a machloikes tanoim. Shnaim shuyu moishchin begamal umanhigin bechamo. There are two people, both of them together are pulling physically a camel. They're pulling a camel, or manhigin bechamo, or the two of them together are manig. They cause a donkey to move. They lead a donkey. I'm not going to say it again and again. I'll just use the English word. They lead the donkey, which means the donkey, they don't pull it with a string, with a rope. They make it move. They walk with it, and sometimes they hit it. That's what they do. The Arabs in Jordan, they walk near the Hamor and they hit it quite cruelly every once in a while. The Chule and the Hamor moves, but they don't pull it with a string, which means. Although both Onogo and Mashiach are both kinyonim, says Rashi, the normal way to lead a camel, listen to this, is pulling it physically. That's the normal way how people behave with a camel. And the normal way with a chamor is not to pull it, but to lead it more indirectly. That's the normal way. So if you do the normal, what I would call grade A, best first class behavior towards the animal, either camel being pulled or chamor being led, you're kind of, that's the way to be kind of the animal. Now, the question is, I'll ask you a question. What would be if I chose to do the other way? Let's say I chose the other way and I did the wrong way around, which means I did meshicha to the chamor and anhogo to the camel. Yeah, I was leading the camel by words or by hitting, and I was pulling the donkey. Let's say I did it that way. Would that work or not? Let's see what it says in the brisa. It says in the brisa, "Osho yo echad moishech, the echad manhing." One of the people was moishech, the other one was manhing the same animal. The same animal. Two people are trying to be koina the animal from hefker. These are our two friends in the Mishnah. One of them is pulling and one of them is leading the same animal. Says the Gemara, the Braisa, the midazo is konu. If they do it this way as opposed to another way, they're koina. Then the kinyan is done. So it's very confusing. The Braisa starts off by saying what? Meshicha for gamal and anhoga for chamor. Then the Braisa says no. You can do whatever you want to l'chor, whichever animal. And then the Braisa again got very exclusive and said, this is the way to be koine. So let's leave alone all the problems we have with this Braisa, which soon will be explained, but that's just the first reading. That's just translation. Comes Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is much clearer. Rabbi Yehuda is the hardliner. Rabbi Yehuda argues on Tanakama. Says Rabbi Yehuda, I recommend, by the way, I don't know if your article, whatever you have, but we're going to go back to this Braisa a few times. So, Ches Amud Beis will be revisited more than once. Rabbi Yehuda comes Rabbi Yehuda and argues and says, "Le'olam lo'ikono achite mishicha begamal v'nogo b'chamo." Rabbi Yehuda is very, very clear. Rabbi Yehuda says, "I don't go for second class. I only go to 5-star hotels. I go for what?" He says, "Only if you do the best kinyan, which is normal behavior for that animal. Only if you did pulling for the gamel and leading the chamor, then you're koine. Otherwise, no. Otherwise, no. If you do the wrong behavior to the wrong animal, you're not koine. Why? I assume Rabbi Yehuda believes you should know that most kinyanim, if not all of them, the point of kinyan, what's the point of kinyan? What do I do when I pick up something or when I take the keys of the car or I enter the house and I close the door and I lock it? What's the point really? I show that, how do I acquire it? I know acquire it. How do I show possession? By showing that I behave like a ownership. I behave like the owner. There is a difference, every normal person, unless you're socially awkward, when a person enters his own house, he enters his own house in a way that's different to enter his friend's house. Hopefully. Hopefully. Yeah. In other words, you behave towards, yeah. Says Rabbi Yehuda, if you do the meshicha or hanogo to the wrong animal, you're not showing real ownership. It's not normal behavior towards the animal. That's not how you show that this is your under your possession. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. However, Tanakama seems to be more lenient, right? And yes, agree that one could work for the other two. But let's now, Tani Mias, the Gemara is now trying to derive something from Tanakama. One thing I know for sure, Mias, one thing I can tell, what did we say at the end of Tanakama? If you want, you can look back to the end of Ches Amud Beis. What did we say at the end of Tanakama's opinion? One pulling, one manning is good. Yeah, you can do Mashiach and Hogo. What does that mean? Moishechu manig in. Yeah, the Bryce is telling me you can either go for Mashiach or Hanogo to the wrong animal. Yes, that much I can tolerate. Aval rochuv loy. Boom. It sounds like rochuv loy. We assume that rochuv, remember rochuv? That's a friend from yesterday. If the person rides on the animal not in an active way, in a way of just sitting on the animal like he yachts, then what? Then he's not koine. He's not koine. Get what I'm saying? Only Meshicha and Hanoga, they're the ones that can still tolerate, even if it's the wrong animal. But Rochuv, to actually sit on the animal riding on it, is not a kinyan. We assume Tanakama wants to exclude Rechiva. Is that good with Rav Yehuda and Shmuel? Yes, it is good. I tricked you. And Maria Buhav says that this Gemara is very tricky Gemara. Because really, Rav Yehuda B'Shem Shmuel said the Rechiva is not a kinyan. So this question is not a question. It's a support for Rav Yehuda. Frek the Maria Buhav. Yeah, he says, why is the Gemara asking something as a question? Well, really, it's a support. Yes. Shmuel, Rav Yehuda B'Shem Shmuel said that riding without pushing, without goading, stop riding, sitting there like posing for a photo or moving a little bit, is not called kinyan. Said, this is passive. This is passive. This is passive. Yeah. No, to be manning or to be pulling is good, but to sit pretty without moving is not a kinyan. That's good with Rav Yehuda. Says Maria Buhav, you know it's the attack on Rav Yehuda? He says, why don't you bring a proof from this brisa? You, Rav Yehuda, you worked so hard to prove your point. Look, you have a very good proof from this brisa. Dr. Maria Buhav, why don't you bring this as a proof? Sometimes it's too good. Why didn't you use that as a card for your team? Answers the Gemara. You know why this brisa does not black and white show exactly the Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel is right? I'll tell you why. I could read the brisa, no. I can read the brisa from A to Z and say Rochuv is also good. I could have, I'm not saying that's halacha. I could have said that what? That really riding passively on the animal is also a kinyan, because maybe that's also called some kind of an hogo or chazoko or something. So why did we speak about Moshe Chumanig in the Reisha? You can do either Moshe Chumanig, and why did we ignore Roichev? You know why? We come to exclude Rav Yehuda. We come to argue in Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda, you are so exclusive. You say only the best and nothing but the best. You, Rav Yehuda, said that only Meshicha begamal and Anoga b'chamo, but Meshicha with gamal and Anoga, sorry, Meshicha b'chamor and Anoga b'gamal, you're saying is not good even b'di'eved? That's what you say? No, we argue with you. Kamash Malan, we come to speak against Rav Yehuda's opinion. Da'afilu ipcha nami kani. We come to say that b'di'eved, if you really were koina the wrong way around, yeah, let's you did Meshicha b'chamor and Anoga b'gamal, even though it's not the ideal way, second class also works, which means what we're saying in one word is what we call in Hebrew internal politics. When it comes to talk, we're not even talking about who, about Rechiva. Rechiva is not the issue. This whole Brice's issue is internal politics between different levels of who, of Meshicha. Meshicha versus Meshicha and Haga. What works better for who? Gamal and Chamor. That's all. We're not talking about Rechiva because it's just not the issue here. It doesn't mean that we don't believe that's a good kinyan. You know what? We didn't talk also about fasting on Yom Kippur. Why not? You'll have to eat on Yom Kippur. Makesha. It's just not the topic of this brisa. Say that's what basically we're saying. Rechiva was just not mentioned. We just have an internal machlokes. What's a machlokes? Lafita nakama. You can do the wrong way, not the very bad, but second class Mashiach or Nogo to the wrong animal. If you're a Yehuda, no. You have to have only the best one for the animal and not anything lower than that. Frag the Gemara, aha, if that's what the Nakama says, Yochi, if so, Larvinu velitninu. What it kind of, I want you to read back, please. I'm going now back together with you. Before we go to the Iachi, let's go back to Ches Amud Beis. And what did we see at the beginning of the Brisa? Toshma, the penultimate line of Ches Amud Beis. Toshma, Shnaim Shu Moishchin Begamal, Vemanhigin Bechamol. What? I thought that Akama is a pluralistic guy. He is pluralistic, right? He can do whatever you want, right? You can even do Meshicha for Chamor and Anoga for, you can do Meshicha for the Chamor and you can do Anoga for Gamal. And yet the Reisha says not like that. The Reisha says Davka Meshicha Begamal, Davka Anoga Bechamol. So that's confusing, right? As I already told you before. The Nakam at the beginning does sound to be exclusive, only the right kinyan for the right animal. Let's go back to our Gemara, Tes Amud Aleph. If you're telling me that the Nakama believes anything is good for anybody, mix and match, if so, why don't you mix them all together? Why doesn't the Brisa mention all the kinyanim mixed up together? And you should say like this. This is what the Brisa should have been saying for Tanakama. This is a suggested text now for Tanakama. Shnaim shayu moshchin umanhigin ben begamal ben bechamal. That's a nice way to say it. Two people who are either moishech, either pulling or leading, either gamal or chamor. That's the way to phrase it, right? If you think the Nakama says anything goes, so say anything goes. Say Meshicha slash Anhogo for Chamor slash Gomel. That would be nice, right? And Rabbi Yehuda is a hardliner who says no. He says only Hanoga Chamor and Meshicha Gomel, right? And says the Gemara, no. Now we have to tweak the Nakama, tweak it more than tweaking, big time change. Ika, even according to Tanakama, it's not true that anything goes. One of the second class kinyanim does not work. What are the bad kinyanim? Who are the kinyanim that are not good? Either if you pull the chamor or you lead the camel. These are the two that are not lechatchila. They're the more or less abnormal kinyanim. One of them, even according to Tanakama, does not work. That's what Tanakama says, that lechatchila Tanakama started off with the best option to tell me what, that there's hanoga b'chamor and meshicha b'gomel, and then the Tanakama tells me that one of those two animals, only for one of them, I can do both meshicha and hanoga, but not to the other. 1 second. The question is which one? Let me finish, and then I'll hear your question. Who's the one? Who's the one? Who's in the hot seat? Which animal does not accept the second class kinyan? Ika de amri meshicha b'chamor. Some say meshicha for a chamor. Since a chamor is meant to be led with this, with I don't know, hitting, with walking, with cajoling. He said what? With a carrot. you bring the chamor towards you a more normal way. You pull it with a string. That's so abnormal. It's not koine. Even lefita nakama. Some say, and that's a lochan shulchan aruch, anhoga begamal. And some say no. Some say dafka meshicha b'chamor would work. The one that would not work out of the bad ones is anhoga begamal. To take the camel and lead it non-physically, but by cajoling it, by coaxing it to move. For the gamal, that's b'chlal not called a kinyan. I have a few things to say from the Rishonim. Can you wait with your question, or it's yeah? Tell me what you want, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the Anoga. Yeah, I'm listening to Peretz's question. Yeah, Paskins, by the way, that the wrong kinyan is Anoga begamal. You see the little aleph over here. Shulchan Aruch Paskins, like I think the Rambam, Anoga begamal. That's a bad way. Why? Anoga for a camel is just not going to work because he's saying a camel is within Hilchas Shabbos is hard to move. It's not such a nice animal to control. So it needs a real pulling. And Haga Begamal is just not doing the job. And in general, I don't remember where I saw it, a Meshicha is generally better kinyan than an Haga in general. So Gamal is two disadvantages. It's not normal for him to do an Haga. The Haga in general is weaker than Meshicha. Now the Rosh, however, I saw this morning, the Rosh says that basically, sorry about that. The Rosh says that there's a suffix. We remain in a suffix about which bad kinyan is not a good one, which one doesn't work. Either hanoga begomel, meshicha b'chamor. So you know what he says? He says that really, if you did either, let's say you want to be makne to me your chamor, and I did meshicha to the chamor, which is a question. Now you can regret the kinyan because you can say maybe the kinyan didn't work, right? So because it's a suffix, then we say that in case of that, the one who's koina did not become the owner. However, in Metzia, it may be different, but Lamaisa, if there are two people disputing, it's not from Hefker, it's Reuven versus Shimon, then you have to make sure it's the good kinyan. The Chatchila, I suggest next time you buy a camel, then do it the right way and pull it, don't do the anhogo. If you buy a donkey, what should you do? Do the anhogo. Yeah, not Mashiach, just to be on the safe side. Okay, tomorrow when you buy one, the ease, the moisiv, you never know. With ecology, maybe they're going to forbid people from using cars. We don't know. The ease, Now, some people say a similar message, a similar idea, but from a different part of the brisa. The east, the ardos or the ika, some other amiroim, the moisiv miseifa. Some amiroim are asking the same question. What was the question from the brisa? The question was that the brisa seems to be saying that rechiva is not a good kinyan, right? Some people are moisiv miseifa. Some people ask the question from the seifa. What did the seifa of the Reisha said? Bemida zu kono. Remember, we see it in the top of our page, Tesamud Aleph. The end of the words of Tanakama was very exclusive. Bemida zu kono. That's the way to be koina, excluding something. What do you come to exclude? Bemida zu lemiutimai. What do these magic words mida zu? What do they come to exclude? Lav lemiuti rochuv. Maybe they come to be mimai, to exclude and tell me, to disqualify rochuv. That riding on the animal, unless you really goad it, if you sit on it, even if it moves a bit, it's not a good kinyan. Similar to the original question. Says the Gemara, loi, lemiuti ipcha. No, it comes to exclude the other way, meaning it comes to exclude and tell me that even lefit Tanakama, if you did the wrong way around, it's not working. If you did, what did you do? Hanhogo for a camel or meshicha for a donkey, it's not working. Frag the Gemara, is that so? Ihochi, if so, I know Rabbi Yehuda. That's exactly the same as Rabbi Yehuda, right? Both Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda are telling me that if you do the second best kinyan for the wrong animal, then it's not working. So what's the difference between Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda? Answers the Gemara, as we answered before. Ika beinayu, the answer is there's a difference between them. Ika beinayu, sad echad deloy kono. Although Tanakama is also exclusive, and Tanakama also says that there is one kinyan that doesn't work for one animal, there's one kinyan which is not so good that does work for the wrong animal. Exactly as we said before, we arrived at the same conclusion from a different direction, not from the Reisha, just from the Seifa. Is the Amri Meshicha B'chamo? Some say that the bad kinyan that does work is pulling the donkey, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work with an hogo, you would pull the donkey. But the Eved, it works, yeah. But some say no. Istam Meshicha B'chamo is the one that's not working even with the Eved, right? In other words, what we're saying now is that the side that doesn't work is pulling the donkey that would never work, even with the Eved, even if it's Tanakama. And some say no. You know what? Which kinyan does not work, even if it's Tanakama ever? Anogo begamal. If you lead a camel, you lead a camel and gamal. Yeah, camel comes from gamal. Ikadamri and Hoga begamal is the one that's not working. Says Peretz, we see it in Hilchos Shabbos. A camel is not nice enough to just listen to your nice voices and bodily motions. He really needs a big pull, and therefore the Anoga begamal doesn't work even with the Eved. And that's how we pass in the Shulchan Aruch. Right, the donkey is right. That's what there is an opinion that says that with the Evet to pull a donkey would work. However, with a donkey, the way it works better, it's so obstinate that pulling won't help. You need to hit it. But the donkey, they hit it. They hit it strongly in order for the donkey to move. And hitting is an hogo. Hitting is not Mashiach. Toshma. Here, let's see how artistic I can get. Look at this beautiful art exhibition preparing us for the next sugya. I know. So I don't know if you know, but this is a chamor. It's not a person with long ears. And the chamor has this like muzzle on his face, whatever. It's called base pagel, like pagi, like the bank. And Reuven is riding on the donkey, right? Okay, he's riding. But Shimon, at the same time, as they arrive in Beis Din, this is a moseira. Moseira is like the leash or the reins, yeah? Never rains but pours. And this is Shimon. Shimon is a very thin guy. This is his hand. Shimon looks like a skeleton, and Shimon is holding the moseira. Shimon is holding the moseira at one end, which means that Shimon picked it up from the street, and he's not leading the animal. Shimon right now is coming to Beis Din holding the reins passively. Holding, he's not leading it. He's not making the animal move. And on the other hand, Reuven is sitting nicely and pretty on the donkey. What happens now? This is a new case. This is a new case that would possibly reflect on our sugya. Let's see. Toshma, that's going to be the $1,000,000 question. Toshma, Echad rochuv chamor. One of them is riding on a donkey, and whenever we say rochuv, we assume at least at the beginning that he's passive. Maybe his weight makes it move, but he's not really, cajoling it. He's not trying to trot over here. The other one, let's call him Simeon. He's holding the Mosera, the other end, says Rashi. With his hand, he's holding the other end, and he's not manning. He's stam holding it passively. Says the Brisa, Zekono Chamor, Zekono Mosera. Interesting. Reuven acquired the Chamor. By sitting on the donkey passively, he acquired the Chamor. Zekono Mosera. But this guy, Shimon, because he's holding the actual Mosera, he's holding the Mosera, he acquired the Mosera. Don't laugh. The Mosera costs money. I don't know how much it costs. Maybe you do. I never asked people in the farm, how much does it cost to the reins? They cost something. Okay, so now the question is, what's the question? We see that Reuven acquires a donkey. Oh, are you happy now? You're good? He's sitting passively on the donkey and he's koine. Fact the Gemara, that's a very big problem, right? The Bayag is a lot. Fact the Gemara Shmamin Arochuv Kani. So you see here that the Roichev actually acquires it by sitting on it, which may be some low form of anogo, or maybe tfisa. He's holding it. Is that so? We rejected that. That's not Rabbi Yehuda and Shmuel. Answers the Gemara again, the magic answer. Know what's going to be the answer? We have an automatic answer. We have a microwaved answer. What is it? What does Rochuv really mean? No. Manig. You are the manhig. Ochanami says the Gemara, B'manik B'raglov. Here too, I'll answer the same thing. Who told you is passive? Rochuv, ride. When I think of horseback riding, I think of using my feet all the time. He's manik beraglov. He's manning is riding actively. He's manik beraglov. What kind of kinyan is manik beraglov? Hagba, shtar, migo. Migo is not a kinyan. Which box does it fit? Which pigeonhole? So what if he's moving the animal with his feet? So what is that? Meshicha. Anhaga, which is a form of meshicha. Anhaga, which is a byproduct of meshicha. Very nice. If so, if you're telling me that the kinyan is meshicha, nikni nami rochuv be mosera. If you're telling me that the person who's riding the animal is actually as halachically ki'ilu pulling it be meshicha, if so, the entire mosera should be his also. You know why? Or at least half of it. You know why? Because the kinyan of the animal of meshicha, I'll ask you a question. If I want to acquire this nice spoon, does Meshicha help for metaltalin in the simta of the house? Yes. Meshicha works. So you're not talking about these esoteric other kinyanim. It's just Meshicha. Meshicha works for metaltalin. So look, this muzzle and this thingy are all tofel, those secondary to the donkey. Just like the butter on the bread, you don't make shahakol, you make a moitzi, the whole thing, right? So too, the kinyan of the chamor, together with the kalim, is all one kinyan of Meshicha. So let him be kind of the whole thing. He's also holding? Okay, so let's go half-half. Why is he getting the entire thing? Why do we say now that Shimon is the owner of the entire Mosera? The whole Mosera is Shimon's exclusively, mapitam, at least half-half. My Meshicha of the animal, the goading, the Mesira, the Meshicha, it's all the same thing, applies to the donkey and to its accessories. That's the word in English. And the accessory of the chamor is the entire thing, except for maybe half. Okay, but at least some of it, what's going on here? It's Meshicha. Answers the Gemara, Enochinami, I'm giving in. Okay, don't shout at me. Yeah, you're right. The real version of the Bryce should be Ema. You should really read the Bryce as follows. Zekon chamor v'chatzi mosera. One of them acquired chamor in half of mosera. Zekana chatzi mosera. Enochinami. Reuven acquires half the mosera. Why half the mosera? Because he bought it b'meshicha. By pulling the donkey / goading, he bought this and half the mosera. And Shimon, you know how Shimon did the kinyan? Hagba, not the Hagba of the Sefer Torah. Because that leash, you know what happens with leashes when you just let go? They fall on the floor. Yeah, it's a long leash, falls on the floor. So Shimon picked it off the floor. So Shimon was koine behagba, and Reuven b'meshicha. So nice. Alamaisa half. He has his half b'meshicha. B'meshicha, Reuven, because riding it is meshicha. And Shimon, who picked it off the ground, as Rashi says, is koine be'hagba, and together it's half. So nice. Is that nice? Yes. I asked you a question now. I want to ask you a question. Can a person do half hagba for half an item? Or is it an all or nothing? All or nothing. Remember, we had a shir yesterday, 2 days ago, about Ahavas Yisrael. Even if you want to be a very, very selfish koine, all you care about is my half of the talis. You have to cooperate with your fellow Magbia. Why? Because if his agbo is only his and yours is only yours, then what happens? When it comes to agbo from Metzia, from the ground, you have to be Magbia each and every fiber, each and every molecule, each and every centimeter of the item. And that's going to start a whopping problem over here. Because you're telling me now the Reuven was going to be agbo, Meshicha, and Shimon is going to be agbo only in one half. Says the Gemara, frag the Gemara, that's not working over here. Pishlama rochuv kani, the rochuv. Oh, let me give you the introduction. You tell me, Mr. Rochuv, which we call Reuven, did he pick up anything? Did he lift anything off the floor? No. He jumped on the animal, showing his prowess, started riding, beautiful sports, and that's what Reuven does, right? He did not pick up one item, did not pick up the slack. Shimon is the one who picked up half. Shimon picked up the reins, which we are saying now he's going to buy half of and not the other half. While Reuven picked up 0. He's koine by Meshicha, not by Agbo. So as far as Shimon is concerned, this half is really on the floor, not on the floor. It's in its place of origin. It wasn't moved or from where it always used to be. Oh. That brings us back to Ches Amud Aleph with those reciprocal issues that are right now going to get us really stuck. Yes? He's holding on to the horn. I just learned a new word yesterday. Yeah, he's holding on to the horn. He knows he manages it without the thing. And the other one is like toting along. Yes, he's goading it. Yes. He's pulling it. That's right. He's doing Mashiach, he's goading it. He's using his feet. And I don't know, in very, what's his name? When they do counter or some very wild thing, they hold him to the mane. You know, something. No, sometimes. Yeah, I never did that, but my sister did. Yeah. Sometimes they tell you to hold on to the main mamish and to ride very strong. So I didn't do it ever. be on me. So now one thing.
He's jumped on the donkey and Reuben.
Weiter. Frag the Gemara like this. Bishlam, line starts with the word vizekono. Frag the Gemara like this. Bishlam rochuv kani. The one riding is koine. Why? The kamagbele bendas. You have a bendas called Shimon, a normal guy who's not a cheresh, he's a bendas, and he picked up that part. So Mimela, Reuven has the entire thing picked up. Yeah, I am Moishech. Nothing has been left behind because it was all lifted. All lifted is good. Ela tofus b'mosero b'mai kani. But the one holding the moser, which is Shimon over here, what is it koine? Yeah, l'choira is not koine anything. That's a question. It's also, by the way, a wrong question, as we'll see later. Right now, we don't look at the reciprocal point of view. We only look from egoistic point of view of each one. Reuven alone is koine. Why? Because Reuven says, yes, the entire thing was picked up. My half I dealt with. I was Moishech. The other half was picked up by a good soul called Shimon. So nothing left on the floor. But Shimon is the problem. Why? Because as I told you, Reuven did not pick up anything. As far as Shimon is concerned, this half was never picked up from anywhere. So it's still lying on the floor. It's still lying in its original place. So Shimon is only picking half and not the entire thing. Dr. Gemara, okay, you know what? So not everybody was koine. Ema zekon chamor v'kula masero. And Echnami, Reuven bought the chamor and the entire masero, almost 90% of it. V'zekan imashetofus biyodo. And Shimon is koine only this. Shimon is only koine that bit that he's holding in his hand. Now Rashi is giving us a new piece of information, which I didn't know yesterday because Rashi didn't say it. Although we say that everybody has to pick up everything, yeah, and otherwise it doesn't work, the part that is mamish in his hand, the part that is mamish held in his hand, he is koine, even if the rest is on the floor. Which means the dispute is about all the rest. Yeah. In other words, Shimon cannot be koine the entire half, Shimon can't be kind of this entire half of Shimon. Why? Because it all belongs to Reuven. Because Reuven has a helper called Shimon that picked it up for him, like a friar. Well, Shimon does not have the help of Reuven, so Shimon is not koine. That half. However, Shimon is koine only that tiny bit of his held under his 5 fingers, because that is nikna otherwise. That's like a choshev a tfisa that always helps. But the $1,000,000 question, which you all, I think, should be asking is, we said it has to be mutual. Again, what are we saying here? Yeah? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Frag the Gemara, hi mai. When the Gemara says hi mai, imagine yourself screaming, hi mai. What are you talking about? Nonsense. Hi mai. What is that? What are you talking about? Even if you want to tell me the dispute, by the way, the one who wants to pick an item for his friend can do it. Yeah. In other words, I like Yosef very much, right, Yosef? We like each other. And I see R1,000,000 on the floor in an envelope, and I say R1,000,000, I'm koine only for Yosef, not for myself, nothing, only for you. Then what? It works. That's only true. Hani mila, that's only true. That is only true if what? If I magbia it altruistically, Baal Chesed, Tzaddik, I only do it for my friend. But those people over here, Reuven and Shimon, are not tzaddikim. They're not necessarily trying to help each other. They're trying to help themselves through helping the other. Mr. Reuven, excuse me, Mr. Shimon, Adaita didei kamagbelei. Shimon wants to be Magbia for himself. If Shimon is Magbia for himself and it also works for him, he takes a ride that gives a piggyback to Shimon. If Shimon cannot be koine, again, it's a chicken and egg question. It's the vicious cycle. Where does the vicious cycle start? By Reuven. Since Reuven didn't do a gbo for Shimon, Shimon stays, what? Egg on his face. Shimon stays with a tiny bit. If Shimon stays with a tiny bit for himself, he's not going to be a bit only for Reuven. Mimele, if one is losing, the other is losing as well. As we explained very nicely in Daf Ches Amud Aleph, it's like Shimshon and the Plishtim. You all sink together or you swim together. Yeah, I'll say again until you understand it. And I think you do, but I'll say it again. In Agboah, you cannot have neither of the sides. As selfish as you may be, neither of the sides cannot be coined on their side without what? Without the other side also doing Agboah, the entire thing, right? Mimela, Reuven here did not do Agboah. He did Meshicha, but he did not lift it up. He didn't take that base pagi or this and lifted them. He was completely static mitzad the height of it. He's pulling it, but he's not heightening it. He's not bringing it up. Okay, so now Shimon only would have his own half without Reuven, but it doesn't work. If Reuven stays on the floor, that side stays on the floor, then Shimon is koine nothing except for that tiny, tiny bit. And if Shimon is not koine, he's not makni to Reuven either. So both sides are losing. If Shimon wasn't koine for himself, he's not makni to the other. They're not balei chesed, Reuven and Shimon. They are exactly like Bank Leumi and Bank Discount. Leumi and Discount work together. I don't think they love each other. I think they have to do transfers to each other and deals with each other. Otherwise, none would function, right? Barclays and NetWest, better for you? Good. Barclays and NetWest, okay? And they work together because there's no choice. But nobody's giving matonis to the other out of chesed. It's not as ratachim, right? Mimela, here, if one side is not koine, then the other side is not koine either. So both are for fallen. And that's a question. You really have to change the whole story. They lost. Reuven only bought the chamor and the actual muzzle, because that's mamish on the chamor. That's mamish like a dress of the chamor and a garment on the chamor, like the bread and the butter. That he was koine. Shimon is koine what's in his hand only, because that is koine regardless to the environment outside. The entire Masera, 90% of the Masera, the entire Masera, except for the muzzle and except for the sense, nobody was koine. Why? Because a gbo, which is only half, is not a gbo. Since there's only one gbo and half the item, Bashimon and Reuven did not cooperate, did not do a gbo, the gbo ain't working for nobody. He's not koine, not for this and not for that. As it says Rashi strongly, as I said before, you tell me, What would be if Mr. Levy would come and he would chap the Mosera? Would he be koine? Yes, because he was not koinate and he was not koinate. If Levi would come and chap 90% the lion's share of the Mosera, he would get it because nobody was koine. V'zeh aloche.
Part of the muzzle.
No. The Muslim is Muslim. No.
Not
That's Avamina. Again. It isn't. If Shimon wouldn't have picked up his part, then Enochinami, Reuven automatically would be coined the rain as well. Because if nobody else is interfering, the rain by default is an accessor of the animal. But if Shimon did pick it up, then it's trouble. Why? Because Shimon did have kavanah to pick up for himself, and it was coined that bit over here, right? While Reuven did not really do kinyan, there's a counter kinyan. There's a kinyan that disturbs Reuven to be koine, which is Shimon's agbo. So Reuven is not koine the entire rain. On the other hand, Shimon is not koine either because it's not a functional agbo enough. So they're both stuck. They were only disturbing each other. It's a good question to ask, and I think that's the answer. Aloha so far is Reuven riding on a donkey. What's the real name? Yankee Doodle went to town riding on the donkey. Is that what it says? Yeah. Okay. So Reuven went on a donkey and he was riding. When he's riding, how does he want to be koine of the rain? No, nagid. By what? What kind of kinyan? He's goading. So what kind of kinyan is that? Meshicha, right? Meshicha never picked up anything. He didn't really pick up anything. Shimon picked up the slack, picked up the other end. Shimon wants to do agbo. It's very nice you want to do agbo. I want to be the king of England, but you did not do agbo. Why? Because Reuven didn't cooperate with you. Because Reuven didn't pick up not 1 millimeter. Mimela, Shimon's agbo is dysfunctional. Yeah. And Reuven, on the other end, is also losing. Yeah. Because Shimon's act is good enough to disturb him. Get it? Mimela, what do we say? Nobody's koine the Mosera. Shimon is only koine the bit that's in his hand. Because for that, agbo or maybe chazaka is good enough. What's in his hand like chazaka. And Reuven is koine the muzzle because it's mamish part of the animal, dressed on the animal like this. And since it's koine the animal, is also koine the kli on the animal, like the bread and the butter. But everything else is between went to despair, went down the drain. And if Levi will take it, he'll take it. Yep. Total loss on both sides. So sad. Right. Now comes another answer. Omar Ravashi. Ravashi gives another answer. No. Sorry. Rabbi Abo. Rabbi Abo Omar. Lo'olam kedektani. Rabbi Abo says, no. Lo'olam really, the original version of the Bryce is right. And you know who's the exclusive only owner of the entire Mosera? Shimele. Shimon buys and acquires the entire Mosera. Why? Wow. His agbo, says him, does not need the agbo of who? Of Reuven, because he can quickly tug it, give a tug and pull it and bring the whole Mosera to him. He can easily give a tug and disconnect it from the chamor. Mimela, that's considered to be exclusive agbo, like this. Look at me. He's tugging it here like this. He could have tugged it and pulled it to his side. Mimela, that's considered to be exclusive agbo. Why is that? Rashi says, well, it's just easy. The fact that it's so accessible to him. Now he picked up, right? You're saying the other side was not picked up. So what? He can do it all on his own. Because height-wise, now I'm already mixing with other Rishonim, because the height is already done. It's already there. What's agbo? Agbo means it's high, and I brought it higher, right? It was here, and I lifted it. Here, listen to this. Beside the height, the chamor is high. The chamor is tall. It's already in mid-air over here, right? All it needs to be is connected to me. My horizontal tugging potentially is already called agbo. If I lifted one side up here, the other side is not connected to me, I so easily can tug it off, can pull it off, and bring it to my area, and it's in the same horizontal line with my hand. That's called agbo. Again, I'm repeating. Agbo means what? Magbia means two things. Yeah. First of all, it's higher and it's in my hands. It's in my possession. Here, the height is naturally high. It's already in my height. All I need to do is get it to my domain because I can potentially quickly tug it any given moment. The fact that picked it my half up before I tagged it is already called a gbo. That's what Rabbi Abba wants to say. That's the chiddush of Rabbi Abba. Again, lifting half the item to the height, and the other height is already high, is not on the floor. When is it a problem? When one half is on the floor, I'm high, and the other side is on the floor, that's not a kinyan. Let's say it started being on the thing. Let's say, look at that, look at that, look at me. Let's say here you have a column in the street with the talis draped like this. So we're going to see the case. And I picked it, now it's already a gbo. Why? Even though this side never moved, I don't care. I picked up half, and the other half is the same height as me. Woo-hoo. Because it's the same height as me, at any given moment, it can just take it like that with no effort. That's the ideal of the bow already. Get me? When it's like this, again, when it's like this, both sides on the floor, and I picked one half, the other half is not in my possession yet. I still have to start pulling and folding, and this, that's hard. But if the other side started off the ideal height, and I picked it up to the same height on the other side, great. Then very good. Then excellent. Then all I need to do is give a little tug, and it's all in my possession. That's already a good agbo. And that's exactly what happens here with the face of the donkey. Says the Gemara, that would be very nice pshat, but it's wrong. The Gemara says, you're saying a very nice svara, as many Magidah Shir would tell you. I think I'm more merciful than others. They would say it's a nice svara, but it's shtiyot because it doesn't say it anywhere. You can say a very nice pilpul to tell me I'm allowed to eat chazir or l'tayt sheretz, but shteit doesn't say that. Says the Gemara, broisahi. Broisa means it's an exterior brisa. It's an exterior statement. Broisa means it's outside this medrash, which means you can say your nice ideas outside this medrash. Because what you're saying is against the halacha. And some people have the version that's more cruel. They say bedutai. What's a bedut? A fable, false, like a chizbad, a nonsense. Yeah. So why is it nonsense? Why is it not true? Says the Gemara, if you don't say that it's wrong, meaning if you do believe who Rabbi Abo, look what's going to come out. Talis shimunachas chetzi al gabi karka. That's it, the talis which is half on the karka, the chetzi al gabi Amud. Remember my case? Half is lying on the column, and half is draped, and the other end of it is on the floor. Ubo echad v'gdiyah chetzim al gabi karka. One of them lifted it, look, like that, and he brought it to the same level as the column. According to Rabbi Abo, who's koine? Him. And then ubo acher v'gdiyah chetzim al gabi Amud. Came another guy and lifted it from the Amud. Then, according to Rabbi Abo, then what do we say? Hachinami dikamakani basraloikani. According to you, the first one acquired everything because he brought one half to the same level height of where the other half already existed. Ubasraloikani. The second one already came to a lost case. The second one came too late. Why? Because the first one, he lifted it this way and he can now easily tug it to his same level horizontally. That's a kinyan. Wow, that's such a nice svara. You know what, Rabbi Abo? It doesn't say it anywhere. We've been learning this Mishnah back and forth, and we never saw that this case is true. We never went to an Orthodox rabbi who told us that your idea that the one person is kind and the second one is not kind. No, we keep talking about two people lifting the garment. Azoy, 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 azoy. We never saw that this case is different. The statement of Rabbi Abo is wrong. Sounds very nice, could be a very nice svara. It's either a broisa, which means it's outside the medrash, or it's a beduta. It's a beduth. It's just absolutely wrong. And therefore we stay with halacha like who? And chinami, we say like we said before, that what do we say? Half doesn't work here, right? Shimon will only have what's under his hand, and Reuben will only have the muzzle itself. The one in the middle, nobody owns. Okay. Tashma comes a brisa. This brisa has many shittas rishonim. Okay, you have time for a little bit of a question, yeah? I told you what happens to all the rest. All the rest belongs to nobody. So you be quick, be agile, you have it from them. Or I would. Hefker remains Hefker. Then eventually they'll be coining it, maybe. That's Akasha for myself. It's Hefker. No, I'm not trying to insult anybody. It's better. Nobody. It's ownerless. Remains ownerless until somebody smart would come and acquire it. What happens to any ownerless item in the street? Same thing. It's just a hefker thing. Yeah. Toshma. Now the question is, the title of the next brisa is location, location, location. We spoke about the fact that not every kinyan works anywhere, right? Location of the kinyan also makes a difference, and now see how it comes to life. I'm a little bit scared of this brisa for the simple reason that really there are many different shittas here. I'll try to stick to Rashi like a good boy, and I will try not to bring other shittas, not to confuse you. If you follow Gemara and Rashi, it's not a difficult brisa. Toshma, Rabbi Lezer Oimer, Rochuv besode umanig ba'ir kono. A person who rides, let me give you an introduction. We're in a society where horseback riding is not a very normal thing, right? Back in the day, yeah, to ride a horse or a chamor would be like to drive your what? Drive your Mazda or your Toyota, right? Very normal. But it's not so simple. It's actually not exactly true. Apparently, to ride a horse in the middle of town by some people was considered to be disrespectful and a little bit of a busha. Interesting. Or chamor. In other words, to ride in the middle of town, yeah, either in the high street or according to some people, Dafka in a more quiet street, is considered to be something uncouth, and not everybody would do this. And also on Hogo, to lead your animal also and just make sure it comes behind you. Did you ever go shopping in a very busy shopping center with a 3 years old toting behind you? Was it very easy? No. Yeah. Did anybody lose children anytime, anywhere in the world? Never. Children never get lost in shopping centers or hotels. Never, ever. Why not? So to lead the child, unless he's led on a leash, like so once in England, yeah. So if you're manning the child, you say, come to me, Timothy, whoever, then what? The child gets lost. So to be manning the animal when you have a whole crowd of people, yeah, is not always functional. And to ride your animal is also not always so socially accepted. So now we're talking here about behaving to the animal like a normal owner, right? Not every anhoga and not every rechiva is always normal in every setting. That's just a general introduction. Okay? Now we can start. Says again Toshma. Let's restart. Rabbi Lezer Oimer, Rochuv besode. A person who rides his animal in the field. In the field, he's riding the animal where nobody can see him. He feels wild and free. That's where he rides his horse. Umanig ba'ir kono. A person who's manig, which means what? He's leading his animal verbally or hitting in town. He is koine. Says Rashi, the manig behema in the says Rashi, manig in the ear does work, which means Rachuv does not work in town. If you're in the middle of the town and you ride your animal, that's behaving like crazy. That's not normal behavior. Can you imagine me riding horse in the middle of Lachish? Would you do that? You think I'm crazy, right? Riding horse in the middle of the street, not normal. Yeah, even then it wasn't normal. But She'enkem, when it comes to manig, manig is always normal, both by field and in town. The Arishonim will argue with Rashi, but that's what Rashi says. Anyways, there's a question here. What's the question? Rochuv. How can you say Rochuv is koine? What's the answer? How come Rochuv can be koine? Quick. Easy. And says the Gemara Chanami manig beraglo. Very good. He's manning with his feet. He's not sitting there for a photo, scared stiff. He's actually goading it with his feet. Frag the Gemara, Yochi, if so, Hanu manig. It's the same manig. You said Rochuv as opposed to manig. But Rochuv is also a manig. It's the same thing. Same thing twice. And says the Gemara, Treg avni manig. And a Chinami. Both are called anhoga. You have anhoga, which is the guy which is like leading it by saying, come, and giving it a carrot or a stick. And the other one is riding it. Frag the Gemara, Yochi, if so, Rochuv ba'ir meitam eloikani, which means, had you told me Rochuv is a weak kind of kinyan of just sitting there like a yotzmach, you say sitting may not be normal in the middle of town. But if you're manning the animal, you ride your animal is normal. How do you drive your car? Of course you drive to town. You come back from work in Tel Aviv, you drive your car all the way to Luz 18, to wherever you live, right? So to ride your animal in town, the oifen of Meshicha, which is really goading, is normal. Why aren't you koine? Wrong. You leave your motorcycle outside. It's not normal for people to ride in town. Because it's not normal, you're not koine. That's what the Gemara understands at this point. Frag the Gemara, really? Is it so true that any abnormal behavior is not does not define you as a bailim? Is that so? Listen to the example. Igbiya arnaki b'Shabbos. Wow. A person found a wallet on Shabbos, and it's full of money, credit cards of Yuchuchuchi Puchipocho, and also $1 million in the wallet, and also cryptocurrency in the wallet. Yeah, and what? And you picked it up on Shabbos. Are you koine? Are you koine? Yes. Shein darken shubenodem like bi'aniki b'Shabbos. It's not accepted to lift up an arniki on Shabbos. It's muktzeh. Achiname deloy kani. You want to tell me it was not koine? He was koine. Big avera muktzeh, but he's koine. El maide ovad ovad v'kani. What he did. He's a don't offer him as a shidduch for my daughter. No way. He's mamish bal avera, but the kinyan was done. It's a drabonon. The kinyan b'David is done. Ochanami maide ovad ovad v'kani. Here too, just because it's not accepted to ride your horse in the middle of town. Says Rashi mishum tzniusa, meaning it's not a gentle thing to do. It's not a civil thing to ride a horse in the middle of town. So what? It's not the nice finesse thing. It's not the noble thing to do. It means it's not a kinyan. Bam, ba, ba, bam. Suspense. Ela b'mekach umemka oskinan. I'll give you the answer. We'll see tomorrow. We're talking about a case that the person told his friend, I am me'akev, I'm the moicher, the cards are in my hands, I'm selling you my horse, and I want you to be coin of the horse the normal way that people acquire horses. Then, if you bought the horse in town, you're not coin because the chiva in town is not accepted, as opposed to an hoga, which is accepted always. You want to be roichev, you go out of town and do it there, not in my backyard. However, the Gemara will give us in Tesson base tomorrow many exceptions to that rule. And thank you for listening to the shir. And I hope you enjoy the art. Have a great day. Hatzlacha. Thank you. Okay.